Hi everyone, I'm Alex Rosenfeld, founder of Freshwater Investments, and this is Coffee with a T-Bird podcast. I sit down with fellow T-Birds who are making an impact in business, leadership, and entrepreneurship. Each episode features conversations that explore the pivotal moments, personal motivations, and lessons learned on their journeys. Whether you're a student, alum, or someone passionate about business and personal growth, you'll walk away with fresh ideas. This is a bit more than a podcast. It's a platform for connections, storytelling, and celebrating the global spirit of Thunderbird. This podcast is sponsored by Freshwater Investments. At Freshwater, we make it simple for you to invest in large apartment communities across the United States so you can earn passive income, grow your capital, and benefit from real estate tax breaks without owning or managing property yourself. Hello, everyone. I'm Alex Rosenfeld, founder of Freshwater Investments, and today I'm thrilled to welcome May Busch. May is the former Chief Operating Officer of Morgan Stanley Europe, where she spent 24 years, rising from entry-level to the C-suite across 2 continents and 9 roles. After stepping away from Wall Street, she turned her real passion into her life's work, helping good people advance their careers without sacrificing their values. She's the founder of Career Mastery, a senior advisor for leadership at Arizona State University, and the author of the #1 international bestseller, Visible. Today, we'll talk about May's own career journey and upbringing, the hidden rules she discovered along the way, and the big ideas behind Visible, including how to make your potential seen by decision makers while still staying true to who you are. May, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Alex. I am really looking forward to this, and I think it's going to be so much fun because spending time in Arizona, I know how marvelous T-Bird alums are, and one of my greatest bosses and mentors, and actually he was really a sponsor of mine, is a T-Bird alum. So I have a fond spot in my heart for you all.
That's great. Where do I find you today?
I am outside of London in Surrey.
Excellent.
Where it's already nighttime. I see you are in a beautiful blue sky day. We had rain.
Yeah. Oh, okay. We're hoping to have some rain. It's much needed here in California.
We could do a swap.
Yeah, excellent. I just watched the video you posted on LinkedIn. You said it was unboxing video that you don't usually do. But you did that one, and you were unboxing a huge box of newly published book, and you were so excited. You had so much positive energy. It was very infectious. I really enjoyed watching it, and I wanted to ask you, what does it mean for you personally to see your book published and to get it and hold it in your hands?
Yeah. Thanks so much for your kind words about my unboxing video. Honestly, I almost didn't post it because I always think, they're so silly, right? But this is so special. You're right. This is a special moment. And I had been working on this book for such a long time, and I've been thinking about it and wanting to have it get out in the world where it can really help all those good people. The people who are sincere, hardworking, always try to do the right thing, care about other people. These are the good humans that we want to make sure that they are always having the most impact in the world and being in a position to do that. So this was so much more mission driven for me than all the other things I've done in my business life. And to see the fruits of, over a year and a half, 2 years of working on this, to see it in real life and to hold the book in my hands, it was just really, really special. And I didn't think I was going to. I'm not that emotional a person. I was a banker. I mean, you're in real estate. We're doing deals. We're in our heads. But this really just feeling the cover of the book. And yeah, so thanks so much for allowing me to relive the moment with you because, it's really special. It's like having your baby in your hands. I don't know if you have children, but I have 3, and each one is very
likewise.
special.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Okay, great. Let's start at the beginning. So when you think about your upbringing, what are one or two early experiences that most shaped how you show up as a leader today?
Well, the thing that came to mind when you said that is that I'm the child of immigrants, and that was really formative. So my parents, they fled during the Communist Revolution in China to Taiwan. My father's family, the last plane out from Beijing. My mother was on one of the last boats out from where they were living. And then they traveled all the way to the U.S. after going through medical school in Taiwan, and then train across the U.S. from, I think it was Portland, Oregon, I think, all the way to New York. And then they just had to make a new life. So that is very formative, I think, from all the cultural aspects of living in America and yet in a home that was still very Chinese, as well as all of the work ethic that my parents imbued in me and my sister. And we were always trying to work hard, do our best. We were achievers. My father always said his goal is to try his best to be excellent, and we always tried our best to strive to be excellent. So it was all of those things, and it was so formative, and there was always a lot of emphasis on doing the right thing, on integrity, on honesty, and caring about people. And those really transferred through to all my experiences with leadership. So that was one part. And then the second piece, because you asked if I could share a couple of things.
One or two, yes.
Yeah. So
You're
my
right.
mother, she was a pediatrician, trained as a pediatrician, but instead of going to private practice, she went and worked in Harlem in New York City in the public health system. And she always said to me that you want to treat everybody with respect, whether they are the people who clean the bathrooms or the person in charge of the entire organization. And she really did that. And when I sort of like take your daughters to work day, when I went there, I noticed that everybody knew and liked, I mean, they actually loved my mother. And she knew everybody's name from the most junior person to the most senior person. And that's just how she is. And I feel like I have that inside of me too. We're just people.
Excellent.
And I think that helps with leadership, not getting too full of yourself.
Yeah, and so growing up, what message did you get at home about standing out? Was it part of your cultural heritage, or
No.
is it something you? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, it's such an interesting choice of words you just use, Alex, which gives me exactly the way to capture the idea. So we were taught to not try and stand out, but rather to be outstanding.
Outstanding. Wow.
Yeah, to be outstanding, to be excellent, to do our very best, always put our best foot forward, give our best effort, and seek to be outstanding in what we were doing, in the quality of our work, but not to try and stand out. So there was a lot, or you know how they always say, oh, yes, those nice, quiet, humble Chinese girl kind of syndrome. I was that nice, quiet, humble Chinese girl as I was growing up.
I can totally relate to that because I grew up in former Soviet Union during the communist time, and there was no way of standing out, and there was not even a term at that.
It's funny that we're talking about this because my book is called Visible, so that is how funny. Wow, Alex, you right there. No one has said that to me. No one has or helped me recognize that. That is really very cool.
Excellent. So you've said you weren't a natural in finance or capital markets, yet you built a career at Morgan Stanley and became a chief operating officer in the Morgan Stanley Europe. What kept you going in those early years?
Well, honestly, I was going to quit every single year because it was so challenging for me. It was very much of a struggle. But what kept me going are two things. One is I am motivated by challenge. So finance wasn't really what I was interested in per se, nor capital markets. Those are just the areas that I happen to work in. But it was a challenge of doing something that nobody else in my family knew anything about. They were all doctors or academics or public servants. And so I wanted something challenging, and boy, did I get it. And then the other thing was that I was the primary breadwinner of our family. So I'd come home and go, oh, gosh, it's so hard. I want to quit. And my husband would prop me up and say, you can do this, push me back out there. But I'm saying that a little jokingly because honestly, he knows me very well and knows that I have a lot of energy. I have a lot of drive. And if I didn't go for it, if I didn't stick with whatever was challenging me, I would really regret it. And plus, I would make everybody at home miserable because I just have so much energy. I need to channel it into something productive.
So was there a specific moment in your career when you realized I belong here? I can play at this level, can grow and go up?
That's such a good question. I am wondering whether there was such a moment because so much of the time I was constantly trying to prove to myself that I belonged there. And for many, many years, I didn't feel like I did. But I think maybe there are two kinds of moments. One was, I'd said I want to quit every end of the year. And then my husband finally, after 9 years of this, said, May, I'm sick of hearing you say this. Either quit or commit. So I said, okay, I'll commit because I did really enjoy it. So that was one part. And then the second part where I really felt good about what I was doing and like I did belong was when I was in a role, and it was already quite senior. I was in a role where I was using my best strengths almost all the time. And one of the things that is a real strength of mine is to be able to operate in a place where you have influence but not authority. And that's actually my favorite place to play. I wasn't very interested in, being the big swaggering head of this or that and telling everybody what to do and command and control. That really was not aligned with who I am or who I was at the time even. And so it was this influencing without authority role where I really felt in my element because I just knew how to do it. I was really good at it. It was not a struggle and it was making a real difference. So, but I said that was really, really far into my career.
Can I just follow up on one thing you just mentioned? You said that you identify that one strength in your skill set. Can you share how did you were able to narrow down that specific area as your favorite strength that you can use and you can capitalize on it?
Yeah. And there were one or two others as well, but this one, I think it was because all along, as I was rising up through the ranks, I really didn't have authority, but I started to learn that it wasn't the right thing to do to just salute all the time and say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, right, do this, and then you just do it. And I learned to negotiate almost, not in the sense of you and I sitting across the table from each other and, going head to head, this negotiating against each other, but rather the swiveling over to the same side of the table, looking at this common goal. And that's really the best way to lead, I think, because even when you have the authority, you can't be constantly using the full telling and commanding. So I think all those years, plus in my upbringing, that was very much how my parents operated. Because as new immigrants to a country, you are always feeling like, oh, I got to fit in, make sure I don't make too many waves and not upset the system and be accepted. And that, again, is then being really observant about what's going on, who's got the power to make what decisions, what are certain people's personalities like, who comes together well, who gels well. So you just become a student of the environment. And then when you know so much and you can see so much, I always say I see culture. Different people see different kinds of things, but that's the lens through which I see things. It just feels really natural. And I think sometimes it's not until you then put it into practice after all those years of honing those skills. It's like using all your senses to really notice and gather ideas and information and then figure out how you're going to say something. Maybe it's a
Ex-
question that I ask you instead of something I tell you. Maybe it's how I Tai Chi a challenge and, like receive the challenge and then send it back in a graceful way in the direction that I'd like it to be sent back. So,
That's great. That's a great idea. Appreciate it. So looking back at 10 promotions in 24 years at Morgan Stanley, can you share maybe one or two lessons that you took away from that time in corporate world that you kind of using at this point of time in your new career as an entrepreneur and author?
yeah, well, the first thing that comes to mind is an experience I had kind of in the middle of my career. I was still in New York at the time, and I had just moved to a new group, and I was doing extremely well in this new group. It was covering corporate clients for bond issuance. So origination is what we called it.
Mm-hmm.
And my boss and boss's boss thought highly enough of me that they put me up for promotion. But then on a Friday night in November, so they make decisions close to the end of the year, they called me into their office and said, "We have bad news. You're not going to get promoted this year." I was devastated. And they said, "We really went to bat for you. We advocated for you. But most of that promotion committee, they didn't even know who you were." They sort of said, "May who?" And that was the big wake up moment for me. And that is the core of what I am writing about in Visible. Not invisible, but in the book Visible. Because that was when I realized that I needed to be visible, seen, known by and to a broader set of decision makers, influencers, senior stakeholders than just keeping my head down, doing a great job, having my boss know and having her tell her boss. So, that was really this big lesson. And the way it manifests now in my work is it's led me to write this book. It's one of the things that led me to write the book. And it's really given me the ability to, I'm known for helping people advance in their careers, to navigate organizations. And that once that wake up call happened, I just became a super student of all of this, which stakeholders, what to do, all of that. And so does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a good segue to talk about the book Visible. When I'm sure you had the thoughts about a book, when did you decide to write a book? When did you decide to commit to writing a book, and how did it go?
Well, I had, first it was after my investment banking career. I was so busy. Alex, I cannot believe you have the bandwidth to do this amazing podcast that you're doing. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
It was all I could do to stay on the bucking bronco, just gripping on for dear life. So it was after I had retired from my first career, and I had this idea of writing a book, and it was originally going to be a different book. And then I started to think, oh, well, maybe I should be focusing on leadership. But then a friend of mine said, May, so many people in leadership, so many books about leadership. Why don't you focus on career advancement? Because one of the elements is leadership. So I took her advice, and that's when all these ideas started brewing. And it took me 6 years, but I wrote a booklet, which is my first book, which is called Accelerate.
Accelerate. Okay.
But you can see it's this little skinny book, and we kind of beefed it up to about 100 and some odd pages with lots of white space and so forth. And then that was about 9 years ago. And then I always thought I would expand the book. So 2 years ago, I decided it was time to do that. But then in the process of expanding the book, I realized that there were parts in it that didn't make sense and other parts that needed to be put in. So this book now, which is, a real book, not this book. This is like a booklet.
Yeah, it's quite a difference.
And this book has the new book, Visible, took on a life of its own and is really a different book now. I just go back to that because if anyone is thinking about writing a book, you don't have to jump right into the full Monty of the big book. And you can just start with a booklet or start with LinkedIn posts or whatever it is. But just start, begin. And it took me probably almost 2 years to write Visible. And I made a really smart decision. And maybe this is too much about the book. I don't know how many people listening are going to want to write a book.
Well, we'll see.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. Yeah.
Well, I'll just share. The one decision I made was so pivotal, which is to hire a book coach. And that just gave me structure. And because I paid for it, I was going to do it. I was going to hand in my homework. I had somebody to, help with comments. And because writing a book is a very solitary process. So I thought it was really smart to hire a buddy.
That's a great idea. I never thought there are book coaches.
Yeah. She's also my publisher, Anne Shabani. Highly recommend.
Excellent. Well, I'll start thinking about writing a book if there are coaches out there.
Alex, I'm sure with all the podcast sessions that you've done, you probably have enough material just to have
I have amazing people and they share great stories, so we can potentially publish
do an anthology.
So let's talk about your book, about the content of the book.
Okay.
So the subtitle of the book is How to Advance Your Career Without Playing Politics, Selling Your Soul, or Working Yourself into the Ground. So my question is, which of those 3 traps did you personally fall into most during your career?
Yeah. So for most people, it's kind of an either or. You're either thinking, gosh, I've got to just keep working hard and achieving more, and then I'll be recognized and rewarded, which of course doesn't work after the first couple of years. In fact, it's a recipe for being overlooked. Alternatively, people are then told, well, actually, you have to play the game, and that's the politics part. And for me, I didn't want to play any kind of game. It just sounded icky, and it didn't sound like something that was aligned with my values or I told you about my upbringing, right? It's just, I wasn't going to go there.
You. But I'm just curious how this game might look like in the investment banking world. Just can you give us an example of?
Okay, so if somebody says, oh, you got to play the game. So what that generally means is you've got to suck up to the senior people. You have to do this brown nosing. So I'm using all these colloquialisms, but it means that you got to do the FaceTime. You have to show up and say all the right schmoozy kind of things to the people that you might not even like or respect. And pretend like you do like and respect them. So just twist yourself into a pretzel to play the perfect candidate, so to speak.
But that was not you, absolutely.
No, I wasn't going to do that. I have, we all have different sets of values, and my values didn't let me do that. So I like to play things straight. And so what I figured out was how to do that. But you do need to be seen by these senior stakeholders. You don't have to do it in this kind of slimy, sneaky way, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I talk about in the book, to do it in a way that is in your own integrity.
Got it. Can you walk us through one practical exercise that you mentioned in the book that listeners can try at home, at work?
Absolutely. So I think so much of it starts with your stakeholders, because people promote people. Even though we've got all this AI, everything, the algorithms still don't do that, right? And in fact, the more the algorithms are working on something, the more everything becomes same as, and the more important, therefore, the human connection becomes, because otherwise everything else is the same. So what I would suggest, one exercise you can do, because stakeholders are so important, is you need to know who they are, first of all, and then you want to map them. So you can do this right now. Take a piece of paper, and on the vertical axis, it's the impact that people can have on your career from low to high. On the horizontal axis, it's the quality and strength of your relationship from weak to strong. All right. So you can just see that there's going to be 4 quadrants.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just make a list of the 5 to 7 most important stakeholders you have, and then you plot them onto this map. And that gives you this really nice visual of all your key stakeholders and where you sit with them, where you stand with them. And the ones where it's that top right quadrant, I call that quadrant A, where they have a lot of impact on your career and you have a great relationship. So you're in good shape there. Then the ones that are really interesting are the ones in the top left, the Bs. They're really important, but your relationship is not yet that strong. Or maybe they don't yet know who you are. Or worse yet, they know who you are, but you've got some kind of a negative with them. They see you a little bit negatively. So those are the people that you need to really work on. You want to just pick 1 or 2 of them to start working on those relationships. And just to fill out these quadrants, on the bottom right, the people who really think you're fantastic and you've got a great relationship, but they don't have a lot of direct impact on your career. So those are people, for example, Alex, if you had a former manager, former boss, who then transferred over to Hong Kong and is no longer, and you're in the Bay Area, and they're no longer able to directly influence your career, but they can still be an advocate, and they can, maybe they know some of those Bs and can help you connect with them and start shifting them over to A. So that is a really helpful exercise that anyone can do right now.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
And one follow-up here is, so you identify a person you feel that relationship is not that strong. How would you go about strengthening that relationship?
Yeah. So the key is to start by learning about them and understand what really matters to them. What are their biggest challenges? What are their biggest opportunities they're looking forward toward? What would be success for them? And then another category of things you want to figure out is, how do they like to be communicated with? And then a third area is, where do they, in air quotes, hang out? Where can you either bump into them, or what are their interests? Where do you and they have any kind of overlap or commonality? Some of the overlap could be business. So if you're an investor and I have connections with people who are interested in investing, then I have a natural something to talk to you about. So you look for those, whether it's in the business side or it could be personal. I know people who have developed really great relationships very quickly because they have discovered that both the more mid-level person or junior person even and the senior leader both love hip hop, and they have just really hit it off. So it could be any of those things. So you want to do that kind of background work. And this is where your colleagues and peers can be helpful. You might know somebody who works for them who might say, oh yeah, they hate to get emails, but if you send them a Teams message or a WhatsApp or whatever it is, that's the best way that they like to be communicated with, for example.
I see.
And then the other really important person is their executive assistant. So most senior people have somebody who does their calendaring and scheduling. So you really want to treat those people with respect. And this is where it's really helpful to be taught by my mom to treat everyone with respect, right? And I have to say, I don't know if you're the same, Alex, but when I was COO, I had lots of people wanting my time. And I remember this one time when I said to my assistant, "Oh, do I really need to meet with this person? I'm so busy." And she said, "Well, you've postponed that meeting with this person 3 times. And I have to say that they have been so wonderful and so polite and professional. I think you should meet with them." And I'd say, "Okay, fine. I'll do it for you." Similarly, if they were rude to my assistant, they were on the blacklist.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Absolutely.
so those are just some ways. And then, and I always like to ask people to think about how can they make this relationship building simple, easy, and fun. So it's not a whole other project because you're busy. You've got so many things going on. And one of the ways, this is especially true if you are shy or introverted or don't like to stand out or put yourself forward, right? But you still want to be seen. And this is what helped me the most in my career because I didn't want to stand out, right? And that is to have that senior person see you in action because then you don't have to even self-promote. They're seeing, they're witnessing you in your very best place. So for me, my worst place was where they saw me every day. It was internal meetings with my peers and senior people in my department. I was like a little scared mouse. I sat in the corner. I didn't say anything. It was just very stressful for me. But with my clients, oh my gosh, it was like a love fest. I loved them. They loved me. It was great. And my whole career, you actually asked me a question. I should have used this example of what happened in my career that really changed things. So it was the time where we had a new global head of capital markets, and I invited him to join me for a big pitch because my mid-level client, I was mid-level, he was mid-level, invited his big boss. So I had to invite my big boss.
Right.
We go down there. It was a great meeting because I prepared, and in the cab back to the airport, as I was heading there, my boss was heading somewhere else. I get a phone call from him. I think I'm about to be fired. I always thought I was about to be fired. And he says, "Nay, that was the best client meeting I have ever been to. If I were a client, I would want you as my banker. Be good." And after that, amazing opportunities started landing in my lap. And I didn't realize until much later that it was because he had seen me in action and was sponsoring me. And I just thought, hey, I'm just that good. A little embarrassed.
That's a great story. It is a great story.
Anyway, if you can get people to see you in action, then you're doing it anyway.
It is a great story and a wonderful, wonderful tip strategy. So I really appreciate you sharing it. It's a good probably segue to talk about mentors and peer communities throughout your journey. How can someone who feels isolated start building that kind of support system?
Well, there are 5 kinds of people that I talk about in the book that you need in your network. Would it be helpful to go through those or just focus on the mentors?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Or maybe if you don't want to give up all content of the book, so let's
I'm happy to share that. I'm happy to share that. It's fine. And there's just so much in the book. I mean, you really want to get the book, read the book, and you don't have to read it cover to cover. You can just read the chapters because it's split into these different skills, and you can home in on the skill that you really need to develop. But I'll just quickly say that there are sponsors, mentors, peer coaches, connectors, and raving fans. And they can be in more than one category. So the sponsors are a special category, and you might have one at any given time if you're lucky, but they are senior enough to advocate for you. And the way that you develop relationships with them is you pre-identify who you think could be possible sponsors, and then you just start to get on their radar through some of these other methods that I talked about. Maybe you put your hand up in the town hall meeting and ask a question, or if you bump into them in the hallway, you might just say, "Oh, I'm May Busch in Capital Markets. I just wanted to thank you for what you said in the Monday meeting. I was really impressed, blah, blah, blah." It has to be true, of course, but you pre-prepare some ideas like that and be seen. Mentors, on the other hand, you're going to have a lot of different mentors. You should have a lot of different mentors. And there, Alex, I wonder what you think about this. because this just happened to me the other day. I was giving a talk about my book, and somebody came up to me afterwards from the audience. I had no idea who she was. And she said, "Oh, May, I would love for you to be my mentor." So she asked me, she's a total stranger, to be her mentor. Now, I have very limited capacity now to do one-on-one things anymore, even though I love to do that. But I just wonder if you have any reaction to that. If somebody came up to you.
My reaction to that it's a little unnatural, this kind of cold outreach and connecting with the person. But at the same time, I'm always happy to chat with the person and give a few ideas how to get what they want.
Mm.
It's probably hard to establish mentorship relationship with the person that you don't know at all and you don't feel connected.
Yep. So I'm totally with you there, Alex. I think that is not a good way to go about getting a mentor, because that's really what you were asking me, right? How do we do that? So that is not a good way. And I think it's because asking somebody, a mentoring relationship can go on for years, a long time. It doesn't have a time bound. So it's like on your first date, you go up to somebody and say, "Oh, would you marry me?" Right? It's a little bit aggressive.
It's similar.
It's like, oh gosh, I don't even know you. So I would not recommend that. What I do think works is if you just start treating them like a mentor. Just start treating them that way, which means ask them for some advice. Like you said, Alex, right? We're all happy to just give some advice because that just feels like, oh, that's just for now. And that's great. And then you can come back to them and ask for advice on something else or give them feedback on what you did with their advice. So that's the way to develop the kind of relationship where they just start becoming your mentor because you ask for their advice, you give them feedback on, update them on what you did with their advice and thank them. Then you ask for something, right? So there's positive reinforcement for them. Everybody loves somebody who takes their advice, does something with it, and lets them know what the impact was.
Exactly.
And so that would be a really
agree.
nice way to develop the relationship. And you never even have to say, "Would you be my mentor?" Because you're just treating them that way.
So let's talk about your transition from corporate career to entrepreneurship. At what point did you decide that you want to start that entrepreneurial journey and you want to quit huge corporate career? Why did you make that decision? And if you can share maybe some internal thoughts during that time.
Absolutely. So I was an accidental banker. So I never really chose the field because I loved it. As I mentioned, it was about the challenge. And I always felt like there was something else that I would be called to do that was more aligned with my natural interest. And my natural interest is in people. What makes each person tick, what makes certain teams more successful than others, what affects the culture of a place. So when I got to COO for Europe, I really felt like, wow, I've come very far and maybe my work here is done. And I saw that there was going to be another downturn. And it was in 2008. In January. And I knew I didn't know how bad it was going to be, but I just thought, if I don't leave now, I will never leave. Because for the 4 years before, every 2 years, I was thinking, maybe this is the time. And then the firm would give me some new exciting opportunity that I got to do this. And so that's why I said, if I don't leave now, I'll never leave. And I did without knowing what I was going to do. But I did know that I wanted to work for myself. I didn't want to work for somebody else. And it turns out that I'm a worse boss than any boss could be because I don't know when to stop working. And then I quite liked the idea of setting up my own shop, my own business. And I combined that with helping people with their careers and helping people become better leaders. So it was much more what I'm meant to do. I also thought about, what do I like to do? And the answer for each of us is obviously going to be very different. But some of the things I like to do, I like to create. So I liked creating in writing form. I liked doing videos. I liked speaking on stage. I liked doing workshops, designing trainings and experiences for people. So all of those things are important to do what I do now. Back then it was called the thought leader business, but thought leader, I don't think you can call yourself a thought leader. I think other people either think you are a thought leader or aren't, but it was called the thought leader business and that kind of thing. But it was more, for me, it was about the ideas business and then helping people apply those ideas. So that's what drew me to it. And for anybody who's thinking about what their next steps are, you don't need to know the end point necessarily. Or you can think you know the end point and then be open-minded about what information you get along the way as to what really energizes you. And one thing I did do that I would highly recommend is I had about 3 or 4 different possible futures that I was exploring. And I recommend that actually, I shouldn't say I recommend you do anything. What worked really well for me was
Mm-hmm.
I did experiments. And an experiment is the smallest possible step you can take that still gives you information about whether or not you're on the right track. So I did an experiment about being on boards. So I joined a nonprofit board. It was a lot easier to do. You can't just hop onto a public company board. So if that's something you want to do, you should start preparing the relationships now and so forth. So I got on the board and I then tried to get on a different board, and it just wasn't very satisfying to me. And I didn't get one of the opportunities. And at first I was quite upset because I said, they don't want me. Then I realized this is perfect. My experiment worked. I tried that out and it just, the one thing I didn't enjoy and the other one, they didn't really want me. So that was a good data point, And
Yeah.
then, so you do multiple experiments. You don't want to wait and then do them sequentially. You put out 3 to 5 at the same time because you don't want to wait that long. You can see which of the fishing lines where the fish are biting. So that is something that worked really well for me. And just step by step, I ended up where I am.
Figuring it out. The process you just described, it's like a book written by a Stanford professor, Stanford Design School, and it's called Design Your Life. They
Oh,
talking
yes.
about experimenting in your life and figuring out the way you want to go. You want to go further.
Love it.
It's a very interesting book. So now, as you are entrepreneur, and can you talk a little bit about your support system at the moment? Do you
Yep.
have like personal advisors or people that you can share your entrepreneurship journey, get advice? What it's like today?
I do.
Just that concerns me. So that's a very selfish.
It's a good question, even if it is selfish as well. But it was really important that I find a group of people who were trying to do the same or similar kind of thing as me. And one of the parts of what I do is online. Almost all of what I do, other than in-person talks, is done online. And so it's digital, and I needed to learn how to market. So I started to join some digital marketing groups to learn how to do it, to also meet other people who were learning or just a little bit ahead of me, or in some cases way far ahead of me that I could learn from. And that was so important. And over time, what I found is that group that you started with may not be the group that you need 2 or 3 or 4 years later. So you might just evolve into different groups. But most of the groups I've joined have been just so effective for whatever that stage was. And they're often called mastermind groups. Some of them are paid. Others are people who there are 6 of us who started out in one group, and then we evolved into other areas, but we've stayed in touch. So we still talk every other week. And we've been doing that for, I don't know, 7, 8 years now, definitely pre-pandemic. And those are just people that, we've come to know each other so well in our businesses. And they're like those peer coaches I was talking about before.
Yeah, it's great. It's great because the entrepreneurial journey could be very lonely as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You need to have people you can turn to.
Yeah, yeah.
It's harder
So,
to
okay,
find mentors as well. Yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead, Alex.
So finally, last question about the book. So
Yep.
when someone finishes your book Visible, what do you hope feels different for them on the Monday morning when they go back to work?
Yeah. So I hope they will have clarity on what exactly they need to work on to advance in the way they want to advance to. That they will have confidence that they can do this and know how to do this because the book is very practical. It gives you different strategies, possible steps. So confidence, clarity, confidence, and then courage to take the step. And the book is very positive and encouraging. Even if you make a mistake, that's a huge learning opportunity. And yeah, so I hope they emerge with clarity,
Thank you.
confidence, and courage, and that they then take the actions because that is
Perfect.
what really matters.
I'm buying a book for all my 3 kids. Hopefully, it will help their careers.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you so much. So I like to wrap up our conversation with a few quick questions.
Yep.
So first is, what would you advise to a 20-year-old self, knowing what you have, what you know today, having all the experiences you had in life?
Wow. Yeah. So I would say three things. Number one is keep building relationships because it's all about relationships. Real estate is location, location, location.
And relationships too.
And relationships too. Yes, yes. And leadership and career success is about people. So relationship, relationship, relationship. The second thing is to protect your confidence. So for some people, that might not be necessary to say, but for 20-year-old me, the nice Chinese girl, don't make waves, don't stand out. I really needed to protect my confidence and bolster my confidence. And as my father used to say, he would say, May, you have to swing out. And we used to play table tennis together.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember the backhand. I loved backhand. You go like that, you top spin it and you whip it around. And that's what he meant. But that's what I visualize when he says swing out. You got to swing out, or like a tennis racket, and go for it type of thing. And then the third thing I would say, I tell myself, stop worrying so much. Everything is going to turn out just fine. And all that mental energy that I was so draining from all the worrying, I wish I had just let that out of the system and not do it. I'm still working on that one.
Yeah, I was the same way until I read a great book by Dale Carnegie, Stop Worrying, Start Living.
I didn't read that book.
It
Okay.
was a great, great,
I'm gonna
great
write that
book.
down.
It really helped me,
Excellent. Stop worrying,
which is
start living.
which is a
Okay.
good segue to my next question. Is there a book, fiction or nonfiction, that really helped you throughout your career or throughout your life?
The book that comes to mind is called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. The Untethered Soul. And I didn't have it when I was going through my career, but it probably would have helped me because it also helps let go of worrying. And that book I listen to it on Audible as well as read it. And that book, I like to re-listen to it on a regular basis. And it's just very calming and lets you get perspective on how you just allow life to unfold. We don't have to control everything because we honestly can't. And so I find it really a marvelous book for anyone who worries or is stressed about things, trying to control everything and finding you can't.
Untethered Soul.
The Untethered.
That's a great title. I'll check it out. So, what's your next dream travel destination?
It's so funny you should ask me that because I'm terrible at taking vacations. So I've said that I want to try cross-country skiing again. I was on the cross-country ski team back in college, and I was terrible. But now I'm a lot stronger. I go to the gym, and I'm just itching to try it again and see if I could be better at it. But nobody wants to go with me. Nobody in my family, none of my friends.
I'll go. I did cross-country skiing at high school.
Really? All right, Alex, you're on.
But it was not competitive. It was mostly cross-country skiing around the school.
Well, that's about my speed. Okay. In fact, I was so late coming back from a race. It had gotten dark. I was dead last and everybody had gone in to dinner already. So you'll still be ahead of me going around the school. And then I've always been curious about Patagonia. So I don't know if I'll go or not, but I'm just curious about it. It sounds cool.
Oh, sounds like a great plan. Well, May, thank you. Thank you so much for this wonderful conversation. I really enjoy speaking with you. Thank you for sharing all advice, all your knowledge and wisdom, and good luck with your book. And I wish you continued success. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex, and same to you.